Hello. I thought I'd try making a video about Wildcard 19 or 20 because there is not many videos out there at the moment. I guess only 10% of the games still have their wildcard, so it's not that relevant to most people, but I was looking for some videos, only found a couple, thought I'd just make my own, might be helpful to some. My thoughts aren't massively clear on it, but I'm just going to waffle in this video. So the main thing, it's kind of crept up on me because the main thing about wildcard 19 and 20 is if I'm going to go wildcard 19, I need to decide by Thursday night, really, because I need to push the button Thursday night to start catching price changes potentially, and that's like tomorrow. And so I need to figure out. So the first question is, when's best to go, 19 or 20? And there are some pros and cons to both sides, and I'll go through some of them. Yeah, I'll go for it now. I'm also going to talk about spreading the funds in this video, the different ways you can do that, anticipating the double game weeks coming up as well, maybe what my plans are, some wildcard drafts that I'm looking at. I'll talk about some of that, but the pros and cons of going in 19 and 20. So generally, wildcard 20, I think I'm leaning 20. I think the reason I'm leaning 20 is because I just kind of got this feeling of like, I need more time. There's going to be a lot more info that I'm waiting for. There's a whole bunch of players that are kind of coming back, like Nkunku, Haaland, KDB, Botman, Moreno, Areola. Has he kept his place? There's a lot of players that I'm kind of wondering whether to include in my draft, and if I can just wait until 20, feels like you get that extra info. Also, the Boxing Day deadline on 19, I just don't massively love because I'm going to be busy over Christmas and I just know what I'm like. I'm going to want to tinker and think about it. So I like that extra time in 20. So there's that. Whereas the pro of going in 19 is there's a sense of like if you go, the sooner the better, because if you do a wild card, usually that means your team should be better on whole. You can clean up your defense and your goalies and prune your team a bit, and so you should get a boost, theoretically from that. So the sooner you do it, the better. There is that kind of idea. The big reasons for going in 19, I think, are firstly, it revolves around Salah and Son. I think if you want to keep Salah and Son as much as possible, you want to keep them both for 19 and both for 20, then you do a wild card in 19, you buy them both, you roll your transfer in 20, and then in 21 you've got 2 free transfers, and when they go to AFCON and Asian Cup you can just sell them both in 21, so you get them both in 19 and both in 20. And they are like the best players in the game with Haaland, so that's understandable. So there's that. Whereas if I wildcard in 20, I'm really going to have to get rid of Salah versus Newcastle on 20. I'll probably keep Son, although I'm actually there are drafts where I might even get rid of Son as well. This is the whole spreading the funds thing and how deep you want to go into it. But so yeah, that's the advantage. If you're very much you want to keep Salah and Son for as many games as possible and you don't want to lose them, then game week 19 might be better. There is a slight risk with that because you might get a red flag in your team. You're relying on rolling your transfer in 20 and then having 2 free transfers in 21 to get rid of them both. You're probably going to get a flag, but if you just wildcard in 19, your bench should be strong enough, things like this, so you might be okay there. And the other reason for wildcarding in 19 is it allows my transfer in game week 18 I can do any transfer. I can do anybody I want. I could get Trippier, I could get Trent, whatever I want, and it doesn't matter because I can just clean it up in 19. I can bring Haaland back in and sort it all out. Whereas if I'm not going to do that, if I'm going to wildcard in 20, then in order to get Haaland back in 19, if he's available, and this is a whole other question, but if he's available for 19, I'll have to do Watkins back to Haaland, and I've already made 0.2 million on Watkins, and I don't really love the idea of that. I could just lose 0.1 if I had to. It's not the end of the world, but I'd have to do Watkins back to Haaland in 19. If I want to do Darwin to Haaland in 19, then my transfer, well, firstly, to do Watkins to Haaland, it means I can't spend more than 0.3 million on any transfer. This is if I want a wildcard in 20 rather than 19. If I'm wildcard in 19, I can just do anybody, Trippier, whatever. If I want to do Darwin to Haaland, I have to do a transfer that's going to make me another 0.5 mil. So I could do like Diaby to Gordon, Diaby to Eze, somebody like that, make 0.5. Now I can do Darwin to Haaland in game week 19. And if I want to do Alvarez to Haaland, I have to make 1.3 mil somewhere, which is you'd have to do Diaby down to like a Neto, I think it's a Neto, or somebody like Tavernier or something like that, a 5.4. So these are the kind of thoughts I'm thinking. It's a little bit tricky, but to be honest, the choices for game week 18, they're not that great really. I mean, there's Trippier is quite a good punt, but then he's not really on form at the moment. I don't really know what's happening with him. He's I'm not sure how good a pick that is. He might return and do well. It is Luton, but all of the picks, Gordon, he might be out now. Don't know. Eze he's got a bit of an injury. I don't know whether he's going to start or not. Hodgson said he's on the cusp and he's got to make a decision on him. So I really like the Eze punt. Actually, I was going to have a go on Eze punt for for my 18 transfer. So, but anyway, that the advantage of wildcarding in 19 is I can just choose anybody. But the reason why I'm thinking maybe 20 is because I don't think the options in 18 are that great anyway. Isaac and Wilson, who's going to start there? Probably Wilson. You could try Wilson up front if you knew he was going to start. I don't know. I'm still thinking about a lot of this stuff. Anyway, so that is the pro of going in 19 though. Yeah, so I think the main pro is, yes, you can get to clean your team up, because I've got like Turner and Johnson in goal, and I still don't. Turner's playing Newcastle away. If I did a wildcard in 19, no, sorry, that's 18, isn't it? No, that is 19. Yeah, so in 19, if I did a wildcard in 19, I could sort the goalkeeper transfer out as well, and maybe some defensive transfers, clean the team up a little bit earlier. So there are benefits to that, but I'm still leaning 20 because I want the extra time. Yeah. There's also the double game week of Man City and Brentford could be announced on. Sometimes they announce it on Fridays, I think, and I'm kind of feel like this Friday could be a good shout for them announcing it, because it's about a month before game week 21 if it was going to go in there. If you look at this, here we are, game week 20. There's game week 21. That's where it might slot in game week 21. I think Pep said something about. He mentioned that they still don't know whether they're going to go for a 2-week training session in Abu Dhabi warm weather training, or whether they're going to get to play the Man City Brentford game. So he's still doesn't know, and he's kind of alluded to the fact that it might go in there. And if it is, it's about last season. All of the double game weeks on average got announced about 35 days before they actually occurred. Some of them were less, some of them were like 10 days, 14 days ish. But so it could get announced around about now. It's about a month before it would happen. So anyway, and so if you're wildcarding Thursday, and I want to hit the button Thursday night, and then we get the announcement on Friday, it might be fine. It may not change much, but it might. I don't fully know. It might change things. I may just decide that I would have rather have waited and got extra information on KDB and Haaland and who's going to be back before I picked my Man City players who I want to get in place for 21. So again, so 20. At the moment I just like that extra time, and it will mean I may lose Salah, may lose Son as well in game week 20 if I do that. The reason why I might have to lose Son as well in game week 20 is because I might want to get Tony. If the double falls in 21, Tony's back, Ivan Toney for Brentford, middle of January. He's allowed back, and apparently he's been in training, so I'd imagine I always feel like the reason why it didn't come in 20, maybe Brentford were trying to delay it till 21, trying to sabotage it so that it happened later when they had Tony back. Possibly, I don't know. But so I kind of wonder whether that could become an option. And Ivan Toney, if he's back, I'd probably fancy him for that double. And so if I want him for that double, that means that's going to be my transfer for game week 21. And if I've booked a transfer for Son to have Son in 20 and then get rid of him in 21, I can't also get Tony. And And I also like the fact that, if a lot of people are trying to get rid of Salah and Son and keeping them up until this point, maybe won't be able to get Tony either, or maybe they'll have to take a hit to get Tony. So I quite like the idea of, I may as well use the wild card, use the advantage of it, and just take a punt and get rid of Son on 20. Who is he playing on 20? Game week, Bournemouth. He's playing Bournemouth at home, Tottenham, which is at the start of the season would have been a really great, easy fixture. Definitely you want Son for that. But Bournemouth are at the moment playing very well. XGA over the last 6 games, Bournemouth are still up the top, technically. So it's like there's this question of Bournemouth of like, is that sustainable or not? The last 6 games, they're right up there with like under 1 XGA per 90. And that's really good. And even when you adjust it for fixtures, it's still really good. They've had pretty average fixtures, really. So is that sustainable, though? Is it something new? Iriola's only been there since like June, is it? So it might just be that he's just getting his tactics, starting to kind of instilling it in Bournemouth. Is it sustainable? I'm imagining it's going to come back a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe there'll be maybe it's something new. So anyway, I could just punt on that and hope that that Bournemouth fixture for Spurs, I mean, in my fixtures ticker has it as a red fixture at the moment because Bournemouth's defence is really good for attackers. It's like a big bright red fixture. So I could just hope that happens and just not go with Son. And it's not like I'm going to have nobody instead of Son. I'll buy Saka instead or something. And Arsenal have got Fulham away in 20, or I'll buy somebody else. Maybe I'll go for Man City player. Bring Foden in for their double as well for 21 if they have a double, something like that. Maybe KDB will be back. I don't know. But anyway, this is why I want this extra information for 20 as well. So that's why I might have to get rid of Son in 20. So is that's and the cons of going in 20. I think I've said everything. Oh, and then the other pros of going to 20, including the information, is the yellow card suspension rules get reset after 19 games. So in game week 20, most teams, apart from Luton and Bournemouth, will have played 19 games. And so if they were still on 4 yellow cards at that point, they've now got to get up to 10 before they get suspended. So all the suspension things change. So that's something nice about game week 20. There's only really 2 players, though, that I'm interested in that affects, and that's Palmer and Darwin. And to be honest, Palmer, I've got a bit of money accrued in him now, and even if he got suspended, I'd probably just bench him, whether it's 19, 20, whatever. Whenever he gets suspended, I'd probably just bench him anyway because he's cheap enough, and I wouldn't want to, even if I was wildcarding, I'd still just buy him, stick him on the bench for 1 game. So, but then Darwin is a player who everybody seems to have turned on at the moment, and I still kind of like. Not totally. I do. There is a kind of like a pin. What's the word? Like I am a little bit cautious of him. I can recognise that some of his data has gone a bit worse, but I still like him. And I think the thing about Darwin, I found this a lot with the FPL community this season. It's very hot or cold, like all or nothing. Like the swings. There's a player is either brilliant or terrible, and it keeps swinging all the time. It happened with like Simicast, where he was like this gift you had to get, no brainer, and then within weeks he was like a sell, and it was like no, you still keep him. He's still all right, and he did do all right. And there's a lot of I found a lot of that this season. And Darwin, so everybody's gone off Darwin, but I still like him. It might be because I'm very much team data. I mean, I watch the game sometimes, but I'm not a team. I love the maths of the game. I'm definitely on that side, and so most of my decisions are always looking like this. And so I'm if I was just like quantum leaping into this situation, just jumping here, and I didn't know anything about this player, if I'm looking at these numbers, they're amazing. Like 0.93 XGI, yeah, okay, but then people say he underperforms, but he's not underperforming that much. He's still 0.85. Still very good. Now you might say things like, oh well, he got 2 of those goals came in 12 minutes against Newcastle, but then that's what he does. I don't care how he gets the points. He gets it in if he gets them in 2 minutes, 12 minutes against Newcastle, it's fine by me. Like, and this is like, there's been 3 times when I've kind of checked in on Darwin's Delta, and all 3 times they were like 0. It's just after the Man United game. It's gone down a little bit now, but just before the Man United game, it was exactly 0 again, 0.93. And it's weird that I found that 3 times in a row back in like game week 17 of last season, the Unlimited. Everybody was talking about Darwin being crap, and his Delta was exactly 0 then as well. And earlier this season, I looked again, it was 0. And but that doesn't mean everything. Like, there definitely does seem to be a change in Darwin in the sense of, I think in order to get minutes and for Klopp to trust him, he seems to have to do a lot of defensive work. Maybe I'm not an expert. I'm not an eye test person, but something like that seems to be going on, and so his numbers are coming down in order to, so he gets more minutes, but he's getting less XGI. But it's still great. Like, that's still way anybody that's over 0.5 I start looking at, and anybody who's over like 0.7 or 8 is like, that's elite. That's really good. He's 0.85, and it's like he doesn't even have to play all 90 minutes. He only even 75 minutes, 75%. If he starts every 3 of every 4 games, he still probably comes out better than a lot of other players. Yeah, and I still feel his ceiling is there. So I don't think I've given up on him just yet. It probably helps that I don't actually watch him that much. I don't actually watch as much football as maybe other people, because that's probably the thing that becomes excruciating for people. But I'm not certain. I'm not certain about Darwin, but I still kind of like him. The fact that everyone's gone off him makes me think I like him even more. But there are other options. So what do I want to talk about? So they're the pros and cons of 19 and 20. I think I'm leaning 20. I want the extra information. Oh, and there's a couple other things about 20. If I want to get Bowen, which I do quite like Bowen, it just means I can avoid that Arsenal away fixture in 19. So I might want to bring him in, so I can avoid that. Also, if I'm going in 20, there might be some punts that I could do now in 18, and there's some nice little double game week punts, like not double game week, 2 game week punts. So Newcastle got 2 good fixtures, so there might be a Newcastle player I could go for, or Crystal Palace I really like. Brighton and Chelsea, they're grey fixtures there, but Crystal Palace, these 2 fixtures for attackers, they come out all right. The thing I like about it is Crystal Palace, this is the days between all the games and stuff. So here's Crystal Palace in 18, they've got Brighton there, then they've got like a whole week off before Chelsea, whereas Chelsea, and they've had a whole week off here as well, whereas Chelsea only get like a couple of days off there. They've had just an extra day off than Brighton as well there, but that doesn't really matter that much. But they get a whole week off before Chelsea, whereas Chelsea only get half a week off there, and I quite like that. Just fancy Crystal Palace after their draw against Man City. They've got some Eze coming back maybe. These are derby games. Even Brighton is considered a kind of derby. Chelsea's a derby. And they're both Brighton and Chelsea's defence are not great. The last 4, Chelsea is right at the bottom. This doesn't include the Tottenham game anymore, but they're still at the bottom. And Brighton are kind of below average. So yeah, so I might be able to get a little punt in there as well. So yeah, I'm leaning 20. Yeah, I can't decide quick enough. There's too many things to think about, so I'm just going to go 20 and chill out a bit more. So I'm not going to be able to think over Christmas either. Anyway, so the other question is spreading the funds. And the question about spreading the funds is, it's a question to me of, like, how balls deep do you want to go into it? Like, on one end of the spectrum, you could sell Salah and Son on Wildcard 19 or 20. Just get rid of both of them there. Get it done. Replace him with somebody else. Just don't worry about it for 1 game week. Spread the funds completely on a wild card, and then don't worry about getting them back so much either. And just really go into it and really lean into it. Spread those funds, get a really decent defence, really good goalies and everything. Spread it everywhere. You can go really deep into it. and maybe not even worry that much about getting them back. At the other end of the spectrum is there are some people who are not even going to sell them. They're talking about they've got money accrued in them. They're just going to bench them for a couple of weeks, because it is possible that they could get knocked out in the group stage and come back. They'll just miss 21, come back in 22, and then you just slip them straight back in again. And there could be a real good advantage there. People who do that, who never miss a game, they keep Salah, Son, and Haaland, and they get them for every game possible. It could be a real good differential if there's a whole bunch of people that have jumped off them. I am a bit wary of that. I haven't decided yet. But just today, as I've been tinkering and looking at my team, they're just so expensive, Salah, Son, and Haaland, and I do like that feeling of spreading the money. And in order to keep, so let me just say, there's one other option. So you've got these two extremes: go balls deep, or be very timid and just put them on your bench and then bring them back as soon as you need them, so you don't even sell them. But the middle approach is to just do like a 1-to-1 transfers. You just do Salah down to Saka, Son down to Richarlison, and keep the money in the bank. And you're always just one transfer away. And then as soon as they come back, it's just one transfer away. That strikes me as the best. Well, probably a good option, because if you think about it, if you weren't on Wildcard and you think about, imagine going like one transfer at a time, and you do like Salah, you sell Salah in 21, and then you spread the funds and you buy Trent in 22. Well, you're going to have to sell Trent in 23 in order to buy Salah back in 24. You know what I mean? So it's like you can either do a 1-to-1 transfer, or you can make it like a complex of 2 transfers. But as soon as you do that, to get him back, you're going to have to unwind that transfer by 2. So that's 4 transfers. If you spread it in amongst 3 players, that's a 3-player complex, and that's going to take 6 transfers, 6 game weeks to spread it and then unwind it again. It can get real complicated real quick, and we don't have that many transfers. So the whole spreading the fund. Whereas if you're on Wildcard, all of the complexing of the spreading this funds, you can spread it across all 15 players if you want, whatever. Well, maybe not that much, but you can spread it quite a lot. And that's just one transfer, one game week. Do it all in one, and then you've only got, if you got like spread it amongst 3 players or something, it's only going to take 3 game weeks to unwind it. So that almost seems like an opportunity that other people wouldn't have. So I may as well. It's like a differential. I may as well go for that. So I might do that. Yeah. So, but the 1-to-1 sounds that was my original thing. That sounded like that was a simple thing to do. Just do Salah to Saka, Son to Richarlison, keep the money in the bank. Same with Haaland to Watkins, and then I'll just go back from Watkins to Haaland. Or, well, at the moment I'm trying to free up a little bit of money so I can do Darwin to Haaland or Alvarez to Haaland. But what was I going to say? Oh man, mine's gone blank. Hang on, let me pause it. My mind does this sometimes. No, I think what I was going to say was that the problem I'm finding is that when I'm getting down to some of these like 4th and 5th midfielders and the 3rd striker and stuff, in order to keep Salah and Son and Haaland and keep the money in the bank, I end up having to go, even though I've got Palmer, I end up still having to go down into this, like, I guess it's like a bargain basement pool of players who I don't really love. There are some players who are, where did I do it? Is it here? There are some players who are like just below in the 0.4 to 0.5 XGI range, and they're good, they're fine, but they just feel like B team players. And I mean, at the moment, I'm still putting Odegaard in there. I know he can get up to like above 0.5, 0.6 range, but Odegaard is still, that's where he's ticking along at the moment. Eze, he's on pens, but he's still just below 0.5. Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, they always teeter around there. Pascal Gross is like, I mean, he's always up on my models as being a good player, but he's always around that region. B team. Sterling, he's got the potential to go higher, but he tends to stay in that range. Neto, these types of players, and they're cheap, and I could get them, but I don't really want to. I don't like having any B team type of player that I want. I mean, I guess you got to have sacrifices somewhere, but I just don't want those players. I mean, maybe Solanke up front. I would say that Solanke is not a B team player. I mean, he feels a bit on the cusp, but Solanke is somebody who feels solid enough that I wouldn't mind going down. So I could go down from there. this third striker spot, I really like. There's a whole range of players now coming into the mix that I like. There's Tony when he comes back. Jesus could be a potential. Nkunku that everyone's looking at now as well. And then I still like Darwin as well. And I'd quite like to leave that spot open if I can, because it's kind of exciting. I like that spot. But then to the midfielders, though, there are other players who feel a bit more solid to me. You got KDB when he comes back. Players who are generally over 0.5, 0.6 XGI-ish. Saka. Richarlison is normally, on FBref, he's normally a 0.4, 0.5 man. But this season, up front, he seems to be playing a bit better. So I think I might be willing to have a punt on him. I've never massively... I always feel like he's a little overrated, but... yeah, he's doing quite good numbers at the moment. So, and yeah, I might be willing to go for him. Tottenham, when AFCON happens, they're losing Sarr, they're losing Son, they're losing Basuma. They've already got Van der Ven out. I don't know how well they're going to perform, but he might be worth it. I'm not too bothered about him. Jared Bowen's great. He's nailed, and he's nailed. I wish I'd kept him really, like after that injury, but he's nailed. And he's always a little bit above 0.5. Gordon at the moment is doing well. It just depends if he's going to get the minutes and that. If his injury's okay. Bailey actually is smashing it this season, so it's just a question of if he's nailed. But I could look at Bailey. Bruno is somebody who's always over 0.5, but I don't really like him. But he's a possible. Jota, if his minutes are there, he's over 0.5. And then Palmer and Diaby is also quite consistently over 0.5. But yeah, those players not so sure. Palmer's alright. Anyway, I want solid players, and in order to get solid players, I don't know whether I can keep Salah and Son. So I might just have to take the chance. And this might lead me, and I'll go back to my defence and my wildcard picks later, but this might lead me on to the final thing I wanted to talk about with the wildcard 1920 considerations, which is the anticipating double game weeks. And part of that is, so if Liverpool beat West Ham tonight in the EFL Cup, they're going to get a blank. Well, no, they could get a blank. They've got to play the semi-final. We'll find out the draw, but they could get a blank in 26, which would mean that Salah could potentially blank 21, 22, 23, maybe 24 if he reaches the semi-final or final of the AFCON. And then get a blank in 26 as well. He'll only be back for 25. There is and it's the same with Son, because Chelsea are through, and on game week 26 Chelsea play Tottenham, so if they were to get to the final, that would become a blank. So Son could potentially, he could come back game week 25 and then have another blank 26, so it might not be so urgent to get him back straight away. He could also have blanks in 29, and then I might be wildcarding around here anyway, could bring him back here, although Tottenham's, sorry, I'm getting really ahead of myself here, but Tottenham's fixtures turned for the bad in 33. So, I don't know. There might be a point where I jump back on Son for a bit. Yeah, so it may not be totally necessary to get on Son and Salah if they've got more blanks coming up. One thing I am anticipating, though, is that the game week 26, the blanks that occur there is a possibility that some of them could be rescheduled into 24 and 25. Liverpool and Luton, if Liverpool get to the final in 26, theoretically, Liverpool could potentially have no midweeks ahead because they're in Europe. So it could be that their double comes in one of these two. But it would also depend on the FA Cup. So Liverpool playing Arsenal in the FA Cup third round. So if they get knocked out of that, then the teams that they're playing against in 29 and 34, Everton and Fulham, if they get knocked out as well, it's just one of them. If just one of those get knocked out in the third round or fourth round, then Liverpool's blank from 26. This is all very whatever. It might not happen yet, but that then their Liverpool's blank from 26 could go in 34 or 37. So the chances of that happening, though, are still I mean, Liverpool-Arsenal is 50-50-ish. Liverpool could win, could lose. But then also on top of that, for one of Everton and Fulham to get knocked out before the 5th round, so 3rd round, 4th round, is there's a bit of a chance of it, because the fixtures are FA Cup. Where is it? Everton have got away to Palace in the 3rd round as well, so it's possible. So what am I saying there? So I guess the possibility of a double game week. What I'm worried about is that Salah's Liverpool going to have a double game week in 25 and then a blank in 26, or a double game week in 24, and I'm going to want Salah. But I guess, I might be able to find a way to just buy Salah for the double and then sell him. I'm not going to want to do a free hit and all that kind of business. I'm going to want to save the free hit for 29 and the wild card maybe here. I mean, I could dead end into 26 and then wild card here, but I don't know. It's all maybe thoughts I don't need to think right now. Yeah. And then West Ham as well. So West Ham are in Europe, and they're another team that have just potentially got no free midweeks from now to the end of the season. They're playing Aston Villa in 29, Crystal Palace in 34. So if West Ham and one of Aston Villa and Crystal Palace don't get knocked out in 3rd round or 4th round, then West Ham's, if it becomes a blank, if they beat Liverpool, their blank against Brentford, funnily enough, would have to be put here. And I wonder whether the announcement for the double Man City Brentford is waiting for this Liverpool West Ham game, because that would mean that Brentford could potentially get 2 blanks here, and so they would have to arrange the West Ham blank as well. But I'm not sure if it would make a huge difference, but maybe there's some complication there as well. But we'll find out tonight the winner of that, and we might get a little bit more clarity. We'll get the draw for the EFL Cup semis there. Doubles and game week. So the doubles, anticipating doubles, you got Brentford and Man City, and I think it could go in either 21 or it can't go in 24. Could be 25. Can't be 22 because you've got 23 there. Could be 23, but it would have to be. That's the FA Cup 4th round replays. So you wouldn't know. They wouldn't be able to announce it going in there until the FA Cup 4th round is played, which is like a week again. So that I don't think they would prefer to do that. I don't think anybody would prefer them to do that with just a 10-day notice, maybe 14-day notice. So no, it would be about a 10-day notice. So I think that would be unlikely, but I guess it could go in there. But and it can't go in 24 because Man City are playing in the Champions League. So 21 or 25, Man City Brentford, that's where it's going to go. I could be 21. We'll have to wait and see. I kind of fancy it could be 21. So if you're wildcarding, maybe think about getting some Brentford and Man City players. Then there's the Luton and Bournemouth. Luton and Bournemouth can go anywhere. They're not in Europe. They've got plenty of midweeks it could go in. There's no rush. It could go in 21, but I'd imagine they would just wait. We might get an announcement, but I'd imagine they'll just wait and put it in somewhere at some point. There's no rush for that one. And then, was there another double? I guess what was I thinking? I'm sure there was another double I was thinking of mentioning. Hang on. Is it there? Oh no, so it's just the EFL Cup, yeah. Just the EFL Cup ones, yeah, and I've spoken about that. So, so there is a possibility of some doubles, maybe West Ham, Brentford. So Brentford could get another double against West Ham, potentially in 24-25, or Liverpool could get moved into 24-25 because they're in Europe and they've got no midweeks going forward. So, yeah, it might be worth anticipating. I mean, I am thinking of like West Ham players and maybe not Liverpool, apart from Salah, but West Ham players, maybe a Brentford defender. So those kind of things to think about. So I might just go through some of my thoughts on my wildcard draft, which again is like tricky to think about. So goalies, Areola, your cheap goalies, it's Dubravka or Areola, really. I mean, you could just put a cheap, crappy one at 3.9, but I think I'd rather have two playing keepers if I can. So it's Areola or Dubravka. The problem I have with Dubravka is that I think Newcastle might buy a new keeper in January. And if they do, then he's going to be useless. And so I'm hoping, at the moment, I still think Areola is probably going to keep his place. I think he was pictured on the bench with his hand in a brace or in a support thing, glove. And I still think he's probably got his place. I hope he has. So we'll wait and see. So if I wait until game week 20, I can find out. I might find out a bit more. Might find out tonight even a bit more. So hopefully Areola is fine. And if he is, I'm happy enough to keep him. I think for a 4.2 backup keeper, he's all right. West Ham's defence is getting a little better. It's back down to about average. I know they've not kept many clean sheets, but they're not quite as bad as they used to be. Yeah, their defence, the fixture ticker is it's not great. That's not the long run anyway. Let's go right up to 30 or something. West Ham's it is quite bad. So their fixtures are quite bad. But anyway, their defence is kind of average though, and for 4.2, I don't mind him, and he's better than Dubravka because I think the risk with Dubravka is Newcastle could buy a new keeper. But then as for the other keeper, a lot of people looking at Leno. The problem with Leno is that Paulinho there's talk of him going in January transfer window, and if Fulham lose Paulinho at the start of the season, their defence was terrible, and if he goes, I think they could go back to that again. Although saying that, I think Leno actually did all right at the start of the season. Like, he got a 12-pointer at the start, even though they conceded 2.73 XGC. He got 9 saves and 3 bonus there, and he got a 5-pointer there against Arsenal, even though they conceded 3.25 XGC, 8 saves and 2 bonus. So he might still be all right, even if Paulinho goes. So he might be a good option. My model always had Leno quite high as well. For the whole season he's been high, so he might be a good option. But he's 4.8 now. When I looked at when I went down, where's the points per game? Points per match for the goalies. Bentley doesn't count because he's covering for Sarr. Alisson's too expensive. Leno's got Paulinho going. Anana's going to AFCON. Pope's injured. Fabianski's just covering for Areola, hopefully. Neto's not bad. It depends if you think Bournemouth's defence is sustainable or not, their form. But he's one of those. He's 4.6. He's not too bad. Their defence is looking good. I sometimes think the best keepers are the ones that are kind of middling, and so they get lots of saves, but also the odd clean sheet. You know, the Rayers and the Edisons are kind of 6s or 2s all the time, aren't they? And you either get a 6 or a 2, and they don't get many bonus points or save points. And so Neto could be a good punt. I still quite like Pickford. I know everyone went off him, but Everton's defence is starting to improve now. Everton's defence is, well, it's kind of average at the moment, but again, that sometimes makes for a good keeper. So I don't mind Pickford either. I was going to go for Raya because Arsenal's defence is so good, but again, he's 4.9, a little bit more expensive. And you might only get 6s and 2s from Raya. The thing about Raya is that if I want a piece of the Arsenal defence, for me it's either him or Saliba, and that's it. I wouldn't go towards Gabriel because Partey and Timber are coming back, and I don't see any reason why Arteta wouldn't do what he did at the start of the season and put Partey as the inverted right. If Timber comes back as well, maybe. And so Gabriel could easily miss out, I think. I'm not even 100% sure that Saliba wouldn't get a rest because I feel like Arteta's giving lots of people a rest this season. So Saliba could potentially get a rest, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. But just the problem with Saliba is he's 5.5 and he's got no attacking. You don't really get any attacking returns for that. So it's quite expensive for just just the clean sheets. So that's why I kind of thought, well, Raya might be the best way to get into the Arsenal defence. And I still quite like Raya, but it depends if I've got the money for him. It feels quite safe to me rather than going for a Neto or a Pickford. But they'd be my other two. Neto or Pickford would be my next two behind Raya. Bit cheaper as well. Pickford's only 4.4. So they're the keeper options. In defence, I went through all the defence and started kind of cutting it all different ways. Like who's got the best form over the season, who's got the best form. So who's got the best XGA over the season, and who's got the best XGA in the last 6 games? Who's got the best fixtures? Arsenal keep coming out on top. There are some teams that are like Brentford keep appearing like consistently quite not bad, like in the top 5, top 6-ish. And with their potential double, maybe even 2 doubles if West Ham beat Liverpool. I quite like the idea of getting at least one Brentford defender, and I think Pinnock's the one. So, yeah, I might go Pinnock. I noticed if you normally want to get some cheap defenders if you can, to stick them on the bench if you need to. And Branthwaite looks like the best because he looks pretty nailed, playing every game now. I've heard some good things about him. Seems to have a little bit of attacking threat maybe, but I've just heard some good things about him. Again, Everton's defence. Oh, I've just realised I'm going to have double Everton defence, so I might not go Pickford for that reason. Yeah, this is why I wanted Raya really. And then the other one is Van Heck. Somebody I noticed, there's a user on Twitter called FPL Chubbs, I think his name is. He had some wildcard drafts and he put Van Heck on there. I hadn't even noticed him. And he started every game for the last 8 or so. And it seems to be him and Dunk seem to be quite nailed in the back there. And Brighton's defence is not great, but they've got really good fixtures. So Brighton's defence is kind of a little bit below average, but the fixture ticker, they're right at the top. The XG of their opponents, the average XG is not that high. So, and he's for 4 mil. For 4 mil, it's like maybe you just stick a Brighton defender in there. It's a little bit risky with De Zerbi because De Zerbi rotates like mental. He rotates his keepers, doesn't he? So, but for 4 mil, don't mind that. They got a lot of players injured and a lot of players going off to AFCON, I think, and so it may be that Van Heck is fine. So yeah, I think he's all right for now. If not him, I'll have to go to like a Bulldog or a Bayer or Taylor or something like that. Porro's staying. His XGI is just too high, even though Spurs' defence is a bit dodgy. His XGI is too high, so he's staying. And then I've got this one other spot. At the moment, I've got Walker there. But I don't love that because he hasn't actually scored many points. For 5.3 million, somebody who doesn't actually get many points is not a very great idea. But to have somebody ready for that Man City double maybe is what I'm thinking. I could always move him on after that if the double comes in 21 because there are some players like Moreno for Aston Villa I'd love to get, but it depends if he's nailed. And I think I'd rather wait until game week 23-ish. Same with Newcastle, same with Liverpool. I feel like their fixtures turn more like 23, 24-ish. Newcastle have got that run in 20 to 22 with like Liverpool, Man City, Aston Villa they got to play. So I'd rather just wait because like Botman and Burn could be great picks. Maybe even Trippier if he gets his form back, but if I'm going to spread funds. But I think I'd rather wait until 23, 24-ish. Same with Moreno. I'd like to wait until their fixtures turn and I can see if he's got his place nailed or not. Aston Villa, I mean, some people might look at that and say Man United, Burnley, Everton, Newcastle is not that bad, but I think Man United's XG is actually not that bad. Everton and Newcastle, their XG is all pretty good recently. Man United, Newcastle, Everton, all in the top half. So I think Aston Villa's next 4 are actually maybe a bit trickier than some might think. Burnley's good, but I think I'd rather wait till Sheffield United in 23. Yeah, so yeah, that 5th defender slot, I'm not sure, and I could free up money if I need to, or yeah, we'll see. I have to figure that one out. Yeah, then midfield, I kind of spoke about midfield and forwards. I mean, Haaland and Watkins are nailed. If Haaland's back, that's a tricky one with Haaland. Is he going to be back? I still fancy he will be against Everton and Sheffield United. I'm anticipating he will be, but you don't know. He might not be. He might miss both. I guess I think I'm gonna keep the money aside and keep myself prepared to get him for 19 if he's back. And obviously I'm wildcarding in 20 if he's back for that. And if he's not back for 20, I guess I might continue this theme of going balls deep and just not buy him. Like, you know, I mean, well, I could buy him and stick him on the bench for one game week. Because it will almost definitely be back for 21, because, you know, 21's a whole month. And then 22 is in February. So I could just do that for one game week. Or do a one game week hit. The problem is as well is there's a lot of transfers I'm thinking in my head of like planning in advance. So wildcarding in 20, you've got 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, you know, 6 free transfers. If you're going to have Salah or Son or something like that, I've got one that I want to get Tony in 21 maybe. Because I can't bring him in 20 because he's not going to play. One for 21 maybe, or for getting rid of Son. I'm going to need one to get Son back, another to get Salah back. If they're blanking in 26, I'll have to get rid of them again. That's another 4th or something like that. If they're both blanking, it'll be getting rid of 2 of them. These Aston Villa defenders I wanted to bring in, Moreno, Botman. That's 6 and 7. Liverpool maybe. If there's doubles of West Ham here, it's just all these little transfers are adding up a lot. You've only got like 6 free transfers between that period, so yeah. So I think I might be worth trying to eliminate as many transfers as possible. So it would be like getting rid of Salah and Son in 20, and maybe even putting Haaland on the bench in 20. I don't know if that's crazy, but I am properly emptying my head of all of my thoughts today. That might even be all of my thoughts. So, yeah, I haven't actually figured out the draft yet. There's so many things to think about. To be honest, I think I feel a bit more sure about what I'm going to do now that I've just talked it all out. So I think I probably will go wildcard 20. I want solid midfielders. I don't want to go into the bargain basement. I think I might go... I don't know about the balls deep thing. I don't know how much I'm going to go into that, but at the moment I'm leaning that way. I think I might just spread the funds and go without Salah and Son. Even though they are the best players. Like, you look at all the players, you look at their points, and they are... There's 4 players that are over 100. Haaland, Watkins, and then Salah and Son. Haaland and Watkins can stay, but Salah and Son, you know, it's a real good opportunity for people who are able to get to them when I don't. They could get lucky there, but don't know. I feel like maybe it's not that big a deal just for 1 or 2 game weeks to just go with somebody else, and it's much easier, and I can spread the funds. It might even be a good differential. So. Yeah, I have to think about that. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. Anybody that listened, yeah, see you later. Bye.